Sometimes the Bible says things that seem misogynistic, like that women should remain silent and that they are prohibited to have authority over men. Yet, statistically speaking, most Christians in the world are women. How can that be? The purpose of this video is to resolve this contradiction. Let's start with some general facts. Around the world, women tend to be more religious than men, but this trend is particularly strong among Christians. A study conducted with more than 35,000 US Americans also found out that gender ratios differ from religion to religion. On average, 55% of Christians in the US are women. But the reverse is true for Muslims in the US, where 65% are men. When I first stumbled across these findings, I was surprised. The gender ratio among Muslims did not surprise me personally, but I didn't expect the majority of Christians to be women. While there might be other factors at play here that explain these gender ratios, I'd like to focus on Christianity's teachings on women today. For someone who's only superficially familiar with Christianity, it might be puzzling what attracts women to this religion. There are quite a few Bible passages that don't sound inviting to women. Let me present two examples from the New Testament. In 1 Timothy 2:12 it says, "I permit no woman to teach or to have authority over men. She is to keep silent." And also Ephesians 5:22, "Wives, be subject to your husbands as to the Lord." There are a couple of similarly difficult passages throughout the Bible, but I think that this gives you an idea of why some people accuse Christianity of being misogynistic, so anti-women. When I read passages like these, I see the potential for them to be ripped out of context by men to oppress women. And that is also exactly what happens when cultural Christians get some ideas on marriage from the Bible. When comparing husbands from different Protestant groups as well as unaffiliated husbands, it turns out that nominal or cultural conservative Protestant men are the group that is most likely to commit domestic violence. So those are men who rarely or never attend religious services. And the group that turned out to be the least violent were conservative Protestants who regularly attend religious services. They were less violent than mainline Protestants and religiously unaffiliated men. This shows that Christianity only seems to be misogynistic for people who have just superficial knowledge of Christian teachings. While there certainly are difficult passages for women in the Bible, today I'd like to draw your attention to passages that highlight the opposite to show you the whole picture. For example, have you ever wondered what Jesus would tell people who think that women belong in the kitchen? You don't have to guess, since the Bible contains this situation, namely the story about Martha and Mary in Luke 10:38-42. Now as they went on their way, he entered a village, and a woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. One thing is needful. Mary has chosen the good portion, which shall not be taken away from her." What happened here is that Martha asked Jesus to essentially tell Mary that Mary should go in the kitchen and help with serving. And Jesus did the opposite by encouraging Mary to keep learning about theology at his feet. As Rebecca McLaughlin writes in the introduction to her book, Jesus Through the Eyes of Women, looking through their eyes, we see a man who valued women of all kinds, especially those vilified by others. Indeed, the way that Jesus treated women tore up the belief that women are innately inferior to men, a belief that was pervasive in the ancient world. We should not be surprised, therefore, that women have been flocking to Jesus ever since, and in its first centuries, Christianity was known for its attractiveness to women and to slaves. You might be wondering now how to interpret the Bible passage I read at the beginning, namely 1 Timothy 2:12. "I permit no woman to teach or have authority over men, she is to keep silent." As a Catholic, I look at the way the Catholic Church has handled this issue. In the Catholic Church, only men can become priests, but other than that, women have had leadership positions and women are honored in the Church. For example, the greatest saint of all time was a woman, namely Mary, the mother of Jesus. In the Litany of the Blessed Virgin Mary, also called the Litany of Loreto, Mary has the following titles, among other things: Queen of Angels, Queen of Patriarchs, Queen of Prophets, Queen of Apostles, Queen of Martyrs, Queen of Confessors, Queen of Virgins, and Queen of all Saints. By honoring his mother greatly, Jesus fulfilled the fourth commandment to honor his father and his mother. Mary's thoughts on this great honor are recorded in the Magnificat in Luke's Gospel. Apart from honoring Mary, let's also remember that the Catholic Church canonized, for example, Saint Joan of Arc, who led the French army during the 100 Years' War. Apart from that, women, like for example nuns, have a long history of teaching in Catholic schools. Looking at all of that can help to see how the Catholic Church interprets passages like 1 Timothy 2:12. Another Bible passage that I'd like to highlight today is the creation of Adam and Eve in Genesis. First of all, in Genesis 1:27 it says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them." So both men and women are created in God's image and likeness, which means that both have equal personal dignity. Since it says here that God created man in his own image, you might be wondering whether man refers to human males or humankind in general. And here you can look into Genesis 5:2 for clarification, where it says, "Male and female he created them, and he blessed them and named them man when they were created." So that means that man, as used in Genesis 1:27, refers to both male and female human beings. This interpretation is also the one taken by the Catholic Church, as explained in the Catechism. While you might have known that already, the passage after Genesis 1:27 often receives less attention. "And God blessed them, and God said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over fish of the sea, and over the birds in the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." What follows from this is that both men and women are called to be fruitful and multiply, and both men and women are called to have dominion over the earth. Having dominion over the earth can mean various things, like for example, exploring nature through science, building bridges, or composing music. Of course, having and raising children is the primary responsibility of married couples. But neither men nor women were just created for procreation. They were all created to become saints and bring greater glory to God. As it says in the book Jesus Through the Eyes of Women, when it comes to women's unique ability to bear children, it's easy to make one of two mistakes. To overvalue childbearing as if it's the primary reason why women exist, or to undervalue it as if creating life doesn't matter. In our current culture, there is a strong tendency to undervalue women's ability to bear children, while very traditional circles might overvalue it by limiting women's existence to the bearing of children. So it's important to find a balanced approach here. Since the Bible contains hardly any prescriptions on gender roles, there is much freedom in finding this balanced way. We know so far that Christianity is particularly popular among women. But one might be thinking that Christianity is simply the most women-friendly religion, and the most women-friendly option overall will be some feministic form of atheism. While feminism improved the opportunities and rights of women in many ways, there were also some negative consequences for women, like for example, the sexual revolution. As Louise Perry describes in her book, The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, the sexual revolution and our current culture around sex actually harms women. One of the reasons for that is because contraception and abortion are available now, so it's essentially the woman's choice whether she bears a child or not. Consequently, it can be viewed as the woman's responsibility if she wants to have that child, because the partner never consented to having a child. He only consented to a sexual encounter without expecting that to result in a child. He could say that it is his money, his choice, and if she chooses to have a child, he chooses not to support them financially. Another drawback of the sexual revolution is that our current culture puts women at a disadvantage because it essentially forces women to act in a way that benefits the sexual desires of men. As the author explains, women on average don't desire that many sexual partners, and they would often prefer to only sleep with one man they trust and that they have gotten to know previously. In her book, she explains that women often agree to sex because it's culturally expected of them. Effectively, what happens here is that although the woman consented, she might feel used. Christianity, on the other hand, upholds the dignity of both men and women in its sexual ethics by allowing sex only when both parties have promised in front of their families and friends to love each other till the end of their lives. This puts women in the position where they can usually expect the man to accept and care for the child that might result from their marriage. I'll probably make a separate video about that book, so there won't be a review of that book today. In conclusion, Christianity has difficult teachings for both men and women, and it's not obvious for me who is favored here. If Christianity favored one sex over the other, that would be a reason to suspect that it was invented by humans to strengthen their own position and to oppress others. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Now let's get to my opinion on the book Jesus Through the Eyes of Women by Rebecca McLaughlin. In the book, the author focuses on how women perceive Jesus in the four Gospels. This video was only partially inspired by that book, so please don't mistake it for a summary. It just served as one of the sources for this video. I personally think that the book was fine, but in my opinion, it would be enough to just read the New Testament or the Gospels yourself, as the book didn't provide any additional insights, in my opinion. Another thing I'd like to critique is the fact that she only focused on the unproblematic parts in the New Testament and completely left out the passages which sound misogynistic. So that makes the book less valuable than it could have been. In total, I would rate the book a 5 out of 10. If you're looking for additional resources on the topic, I'll link some of them in the description and I'll share my opinion on those in the description as well. That's been it for today. I hope you liked the video. See you soon, God bless, and bye!